Ladies and gentlemen, joining me on the line as he does every week on the show. His name is Mike Reyes. He's called Mr. Controversy 83 in some parts of the world, and he works for Cinemablend.com. Hey, man, what's going on?
Oh, a lot. Everything and anything. So let's get going, man.
All right. This is going to be one of the ones where we kind of time travel a little bit because Mike is actually seeing Black Panther 2 tonight, which we'll record, and it'll be at some point in this whole deal. But real quick, let's start with John Wick Chapter 4. The new trailer dropped today. I just watched it. And what was your line?
What was my line?
You were like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I said it looks like a John Wick movie. And you go, "Oh, sorry, it disappointed you."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I guess you and Matthew Perry will have something to talk about over Thanksgiving because you're both disappointed about Keanu Reeves.
What's Matthew Perry? What?
Dude, okay. Quick sidetrack, 'cause you apparently didn't catch up on that. So Matthew Perry just put out his autobiography. Let's see, what's the name of that book? Matthew Perry's gonna love our show. Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing.
Okay.
So Matthew Perry kind of got himself into hot water because he said, "Why is it that this is a quote from the book? Why is it that original thinkers like River Phoenix and Heath Ledger die, but Keanu Reeves still walks among us?"
Wow.
And apparently this was supposed to be a joke, and the way he wrote that joke just did not play with anyone. And yeah. Oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Like I could have sworn we talked about this earlier because
no,
if I'm not mistaken, in another story he talks about how he was making out with Valerie Bertinelli next to Eddie Van Halen was passed out right next to her.
We haven't talked about any of this.
And then he was like trying to get together with Jennifer Aniston while they were making Friends. Like and then apparently he negotiated that he got the last line in the Friends finale in his contract. So apparently there's a lot of wild stories in this book. I haven't read it myself, debating on if I'm going to, because I don't mind reading a memoir, but just sometimes it really depends on the subject. And that whole Keanu Reeves thing, I know it's a joke, but it's been an interesting press tour. Let's just put it that way.
It's hard to joke about death.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be coming through Jersey soon too.
Especially with someone that's beloved.
Yeah, and especially when you're contrasting it to these really tragic passings. Like that, you could just stop and say why it's a tragedy that River Phoenix and Keanu Reeves aren't here. Or if you're going to say, but why is this person still drawing breath? Think of someone really reviled that everybody can say no question, okay, that person's no good.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Or just like Satan.
All right. Well, Matthew Perry is one that, the stars did not align later on in life for him, did they?
Not necessarily, no.
Because
they did not. And he was actually one of my favorites on that, what I've seen of that damn show.
I had heard somebody, when he got done with Friends, there was somebody and it was a pretty big movie person, but I can't remember who it was. They were talking about that, he was one of those people that could be like the next Tom Hanks, very likable, kind of goofy, and could go on to have a big career, and he just did not.
Yeah, I loved the hell out of the whole 9 yards when it came out. And that was that seemed to be a sign of he's yucking it up with Bruce Willis, doing a good job here. This could be his thing. And then it did not pan out. And
the other interesting thing.
Well, the man also went.
He's another one of those guys that it's always his shtick. I don't think I've ever seen him where he's not really some sort of different version of Chandler.
That seems pretty accurate. Very rarely, which I don't even know if he's done. I don't know if he's done theatrical drama. I just know that's pretty much right on the head.
So anyway,
it's Chandler.
Yeah, it's because we tried to watch him in. There was that show. It was about a sports arena, and my wife and I were both.
Mr. Suntime?
Was that it? We both worked at a sports arena during the time, so we were like, "Oh, hey, let's watch this." And it was like, "Okay, this is Chandler talking, trying to work in a sports atmosphere." But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
I like that show.
I didn't hate it.
But it was.
It
It's what you said.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me. Well, getting back to it, the John Wick Chapter 4 trailer dropped, and when I say it looks like a John Wick movie, that's what I mean. I don't mean in a bad way. I love the John Wick movies. I will say the last one got a little long, but it may have been because I was I went to a late showing at the last minute and watched it. So that may have been part of it, but I love the series.
Well, then you're going to have to buckle up, my friend, because this is going to be the longest John Wick movie so far.
I just, I'm still disappointed.
So literally, they've gone out and said that.
No. I'm just disappointed that we never got the Continental TV show.
That's still happening, and if I'm not mistaken,
is?
Mel Gibson is the lead. Oh, yeah, it's going to Peacock. That was originally supposed to go to Stars, but now it's going to Peacock, and Mel Gibson is the lead, if I read correctly. People were just talking about that today.
Oh, that's awesome. No, that's very cool because I think it's
that's
such
still happening. The ballerina.
Yeah, it's such an interesting world they've created.
No, definitely.
Were you like taking a bite of something, or what were you doing?
Oh, I was having a little bit of popcorn. I'm sorry.
There was just such a weird
lunchtime, my friend.
I haven't eaten yet, so I'm right there with you. I could use some popcorn. I couldn't find Jiffy Pop at my grocery store last night.
You couldn't find it?
Yeah, I couldn't find it. And don't get me wrong, I like some of the microwaved ones, but I like to just throw in Jiffy Pop every once in a while because the kid gets a kick out of it and that sort of thing.
Oh, Jiffy Pop hits differently. Jiffy Pop hits so much differently.
I think it could use just a hair more butter, but that's just me.
Oh, yeah. But, Jiffy Pop would have gone well with this John Wick 4 trailer because this is the second trailer we've gotten for the movie. And it's still, again, like you said, looks like a John Wick bone-crunching extravaganza. Poor Keanu Reeves is going to have another day from hell. However, it looks like not only is he going up against Bill Pennywise Skarsgård as the Marquis de Grand Mort, which I believe is the Marquis of Great Death. Like, that's a stage name I want. It looks like he's going to go up against him in an old-fashioned duel because Winston all of a sudden pops up and still buddy-buddy, and it's like, by the way, challenge him to single combat and, win or lose, it's a way out. So John won't have to look over his shoulder anymore. And it looks like a member of the Wick family is a member of the High Table.
Yeah,
that
was the line. That was the most important line in the whole thing, where Keanu says something along the lines of, "I don't have a seat at the table.
I don't have a seat on the table,
but your family does," or something to that effect.
Yeah,
it's like, whoa, wait a second.
And if you're gonna let anybody drop that line in the John Wick universe, there's three people that should get it: Lawrence Fishburne, Ian McShane, or Lance Reddick. Those are the three people that if you have that line sitting there, they're the ones that should do it.
Yeah. It looks cool. I love the mythos of the world. It's going to end with like John Wick being the king of the assassins, right?
Who knows at this point? Because I remember talking to Keanu Reeves for John Wick 3, and I think he was kind of convinced that John probably will die when this is all said and done, but it's just how and like, is it a good death? Like, that's another thing that sort of prevails in this trailer is the sentiment of a good death. His friend, played by, I believe that was Hiroyuki Sanada, his friend that I don't know if we have a name for his character yet.
Yeah.
But he was just basically in there, and he's like, old friend, there's a good death and a bad death. Oh, no, like, for a good death, you have to have a good life, I think it was.
You know what? And please don't laugh at me when I make this comparison. You know what feeling I get from this? Like, if John lives, do you remember the ending of the Chronicles of Riddick, the second one?
No, but didn't he I think I heard doesn't he become like a ruler at the end of that
He
one?
becomes the ruler because you keep what you kill, is the saying in the movie. And I don't know why, but I there's part of me that gets this feeling of, does John Wick keep what he kills, essentially, in this case, and gets, oops, sorry about that. That was my computer. Turn that off. But anyways, yeah, that's just the thought I had about it. I wouldn't hate it. If he has a good, I think it's either got to end one of those two ways. He either has a really cool death that means something, or he becomes the king of the assassins, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I just don't think John would want to rule like that.
I know, but it's one of those
He really doesn't have any. Yeah.
where he's forced into it type thing.
Like maybe he gets forced into it and then just bans the whole thing at the end, and like this whole world is just in shambles and everything goes all out like anarchy.
Maybe, who knows? We will see. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com on the line with me right now talking about movies. Other than Black Panther 2,
which 4 comes out in March.
Yep. Before we do get to the Black Panther stuff, was there any other movies coming out this week, or was it a light week?
Well, theatrically, we do get the Ryan Reynolds, Will Ferrell Christmas musical Spirited, but that is also an Apple original, and it goes to streaming next weekend.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's I think it's another one of those deals where it's not going to be in the major chains since it's such a short window. So I know you have some theaters out there in Ankeny that play movies like that.
Let me check.
Like basically anything that's not one of the 3 major chains.
It is actually coming to, let's see. It's actually going to be in town, and one of our it's a 6:30 showing.
Yeah. See, it's I'm sure if I put in actually, I wonder if I put it in my listings, I would be able to find a show.
Yeah. So.
But yeah. Anyway, that's coming out this weekend. What else did we? I think those are like the 2 big ones. Hugh Jackman has an awards considered movie, The Sun, which is going to be out in limited release.
Okay.
We also have Falling for Christmas, the Lindsay Lohan Netflix Christmas movie is going to be. It's streaming right now. As of the time we're recording, it is now on Netflix for all of you to get your holly jolly on. And that's just the first of many because it is now becoming holiday movie season. And streaming and TV are big on that.
Yeah.
And I have a couple we have a couple holiday offerings we'll be able to talk about next week.
Yeah, we'll talk about Spirited. We'll talk about A Christmas Story Christmas comes out next week, doesn't it?
Yes. And also Disney Christmas Story Christmas will be on HBO Max. And the Santa Clauses will be starting its 6-episode run with the first 2 next week. So if you've got a Disney Plus subscription or if you've got an HBO Max subscription you're looking to keep current, those are some good reasons to do that before next week.
You know what? With that in mind, and I don't want to get too sidetracked here, but I kind of love the taking like movies and turning them into series like that, especially when it almost is another movie, but it's just in series form.
Yeah, when you've got the right concept, it does work. It works fantastically. And that leads to another piece of news that I can throw in here because the interviews for the Santa Claus are starting to, the material from that's starting to break this week. I have some stuff that's going to be going to cinemablend.com as well. And Tim Allen basically talked about why Santa Claus 3 was so bad. And he basically said it was like they were infected by success and they had so much money, but he and Martin Short never got to do a scene together that was funny, and just was basically saying that it was one of those cases where, the sequels kind of get bigger and bigger, but they lose the point.
Yeah.
At least that's what it sounded like. And that's what I agree with because that's my least favorite Santa Claus.
I was going to say, I like the first 2. I think they're both great. The third one, I think I've only seen it once, and I don't know if I could tell you what happened in it.
The third one is so mean-spirited and not good. And again, Tim Allen was absolutely right. You have him and Martin Short together in a movie, and the outtakes are funnier than any of the scenes they got to do.
Yeah.
And I remember it first came out, and there was a really cool special feature where he was talking about their comedy styles, and he said that he was pushy and Martin Short was desperate. That's the names he kind of gave each of them. So it's like pushy and desperate. That's a team that should work, especially with those 2 men.
Yeah.
Or with people of their caliber. Any 2 people of their caliber should be able to make that work. And the escape clause fell flat, and it makes me sad.
All righty. Well, hopefully the new series is good. We'll see what happens with
I'll be able to talk about it next week, but I've seen the first 2 episodes.
Perfect. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line right now. All right, this is the part of the show where we're going to time travel, and all of a sudden we're going to be talking about Wakanda Forever, Black Panther 2, in 3, 2, 1. All right, we're back. It is Friday morning, and Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com has seen Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever. What did we think, Mike?
It's okay.
Really, that's your review of it. It's okay.
It really bums me out to say this, and I'm going to preface this by saying that I love Black Panther 1. And the world of Wakanda was so amazing to see unfold on the screen. And Chadwick Boseman has just that, he had that charm and that energy, and he was just he just blew me away seeing him in that movie. And his absence is definitely felt in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And that's not to say that the cast isn't good. I just feel like we know there was a draft of this movie that, T'Challa was at the center of it all. And unfortunately, they sort of revealed recently that Chadwick Boseman unfortunately never read that draft because he was just too tired to even do that. And on the more lighthearted side of things, you had Letitia Wright saying that he joked about how long the damn script was. I think it was like 300 pages.
Oh, wow.
And he was cracking jokes about it. But then, you read that interview with Ryan Coogler, and he literally could not, he had to write it on a notepad. He couldn't say it, where he was just too tired.
You know what?
This movie does.
Let me say one thing real quick, okay? Or let me phrase it like this. Let me ask you a question. Does this movie suffer of trying to be too many things at once?
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of...
It absolutely does. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking, because the trailer, it looks like you got all the stuff with Wakanda, you got all the stuff with T'Challa, you've got Ironheart being introduced, you've got Namor, you've got so many strings being pulled that it's like, what's the focus of this movie? It seems like there's a lot of comic book related movies that suffer from this, where you try and put too much into one movie and it just kind of, it works, but it's not as great as it could be if it was a little bit more focused.
No, that's exactly what my main problem with this movie is, and I still give a lot of credit to Ryan Coogler and his team for making a film despite the tragic loss of an amazing acting talent. And I don't know how the scheduling and how everything was sort of tweaked because of that. I just know that obviously they had to tweak the idea of the movie itself. And I give them credit for, it's still a watchable movie. It's still it's an okay movie. But the thing is, there's way too much going on in this. And what I really, it's two movies of story pounded into a one story bag.
Okay.
And I think this should have been a 2-movie event, to be honest. I think what they really could have done, and this would have been amazing because Black Panther is one of the I would say that's one of the crown jewels of the MCU going forward. And especially with the success and the cultural impact the first movie had, they should have developed a 2-movie story. And the first one would be mostly about dealing with the loss of T'Challa and, trying to figure out who the next Panther will be and everything else. And then the second, introduce Namor and his kingdom as sort of like a second, third act reveal, and then go to the whole second movie where it deals with Namor's conflict with Wakanda.
Okay.
But it feels like this movie, it's a movie stuck in between bookending scenes of Chadwick Boseman tributes, which they do, to the credit of the film, the opening is absolutely heartbreaking. And then they do have a special tweak to the Marvel Studios logo where it's a big tribute to Chadwick Boseman that was really well done and beautiful. But I think if they were really going to address that loss on screen in film, you probably need a whole movie just to do that and to do that justice.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been groundbreaking for Marvel because, it would have been almost like Infinity War and Endgame, but on a more personal level where this first film is dealing with just that loss. What comes next? Where do we find ourselves after this? And it would have given them more time to really, in your second movie, you can have more of a traditional Marvel guns blazing battle.
You know what?
But this movie is almost 3 hours.
What you just said there, the first half of your 2-movie feature, if that's how you would have went with it, that's almost something Marvel really needs right now. Like not a change,
Yeah, it's
not a change in a kooky way with, like what they tried to do with, Thor 3 and Thor 4 and, that sort of, change. But like just a really, really drama-driven, heart-wrenching movie, to let people grieve over this guy who is so beloved.
exactly, and like they already started touching upon that sort of material. I'm glad you mentioned Thor: Love and Thunder because they kind of touch upon that sort of thing in there. And I think that was another case where it's like this movie is wild, but then you're going to throw in like a cancer subplot. Like,
Yeah.
you needed to go at least another draft or more with that. I just keep thinking back to Black Panther 1 and how huge that was with like the Killmonger story and all the social commentary that it had and how brilliantly it did it.
Yeah.
And this, I feel like it really did need to be 2 films.
Okay.
And you really needed to, you can't just use you can't use T'Challa's death as just like an introduction and then it's mentioned time to time throughout and it's still present throughout the movie. But like you said, that would have been huge if it's just like, okay, we're going to take a beat here and we're really going to discuss and we're really going to talk out what this man's death means to us and to this world. And where do we go next?
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me to talk about movies. So Black Panther 2, good, but it could be better. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's some of the stuff that I would have cut is like MCU background building stuff because the appearances of some characters you're gonna be able to tell right away. It's like, I like these people. I like seeing them in this movie. This isn't the movie for this.
Yeah.
And then I will definitely say there was one scene that caught me so off guard in the best way possible. Like I don't want to give too many details about it, but there's a surprise most of the way through this movie. And that was another theme that really could have been explored in another film.
Okay.
And I'll just leave it at that. But yes, it's an okay movie. I don't hate it. It's just I wish there was more editing and focus because I even looked it up this morning. Black Panther 1 was, I think, 2 hours, 18 minutes. Wakanda Forever is 2 hours, 41 minutes.
Okay.
And the 3D that I saw was not, it was, So that was another thing that kind of just built onto the pile. It's like, okay, this is very murky 3D. This movie deserves better, even though this movie could be better, but it's okay.
All righty. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me to talk about movies. Real quick, and these are unconfirmed reports. Should we talk about it?
I guess we can. I mean, I still don't know when we will get a confirmation, but it sounds like at the time of this recording, Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman from Batman the Animated Series, has passed away.
Now, and like we said, these are unconfirmed reports, but there are a lot of them pouring out. Kevin, boy, he's probably, I know people don't put the animated stuff up with, like who the best Batman is, but let's face it, he's one of the best Batmen out there.
Oh, you totally should put him up there with that. No, Kevin Conroy, I had the movies growing up as a kid. I just wasn't, my dad had the movies on VHS. I just wasn't as into them. It was Batman the Animated Series that really hooked me into what I love about Batman and what that character means to me. And Kevin Conroy always had that sort of, he was so amazing with his voice. It was so oaken, first of all. Like, it had that, like, oakiness to it.
Yeah.
But, when he's Batman, he's very serious and doesn't have to, he just basically drops his voice a little bit and doesn't have to throw on too much affectation. But then when he's Bruce, he lightens up and does this. And he was one of those actors that nailed both sides of the equation.
No.
And Mask of the Phantasm is probably still my favorite Batman movie.
That was a good one, was it? And he was Batman for a long time. And wasn't he part of one of the TV shows, like the Crisis Point thing, where he showed up as one of the Batmen?
Yeah, he was in the Crisis on Infinite Earth's big miniseries event.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I don't know what the hell it was called. But yeah, if it's that's really cool. And boy, there's people out there that they're like, oh, I don't want to get stuck in one role or be known for one role. If you're going to be known for a role, it's Batman, right?
Yeah. And especially just that good of a Batman. I mean, the thing that really made Mask of the Phantasm so brilliant for me is we get a little bit of, we get that whole side story with him and Andrea, where he like falls in love. And then the one scene that convinced me that was my favorite adventure of Batman is he goes to his parents' grave and he's almost like apologizing to them that he wants to go live a normal life.
Yeah.
And it's like, I found this woman. I'm in love. Like, when will I be done? Am I done? And to play around with that theme, not even like the major Batman movies hardly play around with that theme. Like they'll introduce, like Dark Knight is probably the closest we've come to that. But even then, it didn't have that extra moment that Mask of the Phantasm did with him at his parents' grave.
Yeah.
And for as much as Batman uses the death of the Waynes as a touchstone for that character, Kevin Conroy in that moment made it mean something and made it so damn important that it's another example of you're not just watching a cartoon, you're watching an animated movie. And animation isn't a genre, it is a medium. It's a way of telling a story, and you can tell big stories like that and sinister stories like Mark Hamill's Joker being all sorts of, messed up in that movie.
Yeah. So, well, again, unconfirmed reports at the moment, but there are a lot of them out there. We'll have to wait and see what happens. If not, we just gave Kevin Conroy a really great tribute.
I mean, if we're wrong and Kevin Conroy is still alive, that's great because the man is just...
He's super.
I can't say enough good things about what that man did on top of the rest of the brilliant cast in Batman the Animated Series. That is my Batman.
There you go. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joins me every Friday on the show to talk about movies. Mike, you have yourself a great weekend, okay?
You too, man.